In the wake of their breakout from Normandy and the closure of the Falaise pocket, Allied forces conducted a rapid advance across France and into Belgium. Supreme Commander General Dwight D. Eisenhower favoured pursuit of the seemingly shattered German armies northwards and eastwards across the Seine, and ultimately to the Rhine on the broad front. The attack was the Ruhr Valley, the industrial heartland of Germany. Striking here would be a blow to German capability to continue the war, which, combined with the fact that they were on the retreat, might be the end of the war sooner than expected. Attacking on this broad front, they broke through the German resistance and soon were nearing Germany. The speed of the Allied advance, however, began to place significant strains on their increasingly long supply lines. To combat this issue, the Red Bull Express was formed to rush supplies to the front. In the first week of September 1944, Eisenhower authorized US First Army to cross the Rhine near Cologne, Bonn and Koblenz, whilst US Third Army crossed near Mannheim, Mainz and Karlsruhe. Eisenhower relied on speed, which in turn depended on the current logistics supply chain, which he conceded were already stretched to the limit. Montgomery argued that with the supply situation deteriorating, he would not be able to reach the Ruhr, but a relocation of the present resources of every description would be adequate to get one thrust to Berlin. Montgomery initially suggested Operation Comet, a limited airborne coup de main operation that was to be launched on the 2nd of September 1944. Comet envisaged using the 1st Airborne Division along with the Polish 1st Independent Parachute Brigade to secure several bridges over the River Rhine to aid the Allied advance into the North German plain. However, several days of poor weather and Montgomery's concerns over increasing levels of German resistance caused him to postpone the operation and then cancel it on the 10th of September. Comet was replaced by a more ambitious plan to bypass the Siegfried Line, the German defensive line that hooked by the borders of the Netherlands, Belgium and northern France for 630 kilometres and featured more than 18,000 bunkers, tunnels and tank traps, by hooking around its northern end, allowing the Allies to cross the Rhine with large forces and to trap the German 15th Army between Arnhem and the shores of the Ijlmer. Montgomery had just received a signal from London that something needed to be done to neutralise the V2 launch sites around The Hague, which were bombarding London, and so, when presenting this plan, insisted that it must proceed. The plan had its critics, most notably in the American camp, who believed that the supplies needed for the attack would be taken away from their drive towards the Rhine. Initially, Eisenhower called the plan a pencil-like thrust, whilst General Bradley, commander of the US 12th Army, called it a venture up a side alley. Eisenhower, convinced that German forces faced imminent collapse, was equally adamant that advance on a broad front was correct. However, he consented to an Operation Market Garden, giving it limited priority in terms of supplies, but as part of his advance on a broad front. Eisenhower's reasoning was that, if successful, Montgomery would also be in a position to clear the Scheldt Islands, which would open the port of Antwerp to Allied vessels. The plan. To accomplish this, Montgomery developed Operation Market Garden, a two-stage operation, Market and Garden. For the airborne component, Market, Major General Maxwell Taylor's 101st Airborne was to be dropped near Eindhoven with orders to take the bridge at Sonnenwegel. To the northeast, Brigadier General James Gavin's 82nd Airborne would land at Nijmegen to take the bridges there and at Grave. Farthest north, the British 1st Airborne Division under Major General Roy Urquhart, an unusual choice to lead the Airborne Division as he had never parachuted before, never participated in glider landing and got airsick, and Brigadier General Stanislaw Sosabowski's 1st Polish Independent Parachute Brigade was to land at Oosterbeek and capture the bridge at Arnhem. Attacking up Highway 69, the ground element, Garden, led by Lieutenant General Brian Horrocks with 30 Corps, was to relieve the 101st on the first day, the 82nd on the second day, and the 1st by the fourth day. In case any of the bridges along the route were blown by the Germans, 30 Corps was accompanied by engineering units and bridging equipment. All the while, the American General Patton would continue to advance in the south towards Germany as the airborne attack would attack in the north of Europe. Both armies would then squeeze what was left of German resistance in the middle. The 1st Airborne Division had not taken part in D-Day, it had been kept in reserve and had remained inactive after June 1944. A number of planned operations had been cancelled at the last minute because they were not needed due to the success of the British armoured columns on the ground. By September 1944, the 1st Division was restless, frustrated and ready for anything. The attack had to be planned in just 6 days. Urquhart's 1st Division faced two major problems. The shortfall of aircraft and the belief that the bridge at Arnhem was surrounded by anti-aircraft guns would make the landing by the bridge too difficult. The Americans, secondly, were given the priority with regards to aircraft. The capture of the bridge at Arnhem would be pointless if the Americans failed to capture their targets. Therefore, the Americans would be carried to their targets in one lift, whereas the attack on Arnhem would be done in 3 separate lifts during the day. Any nighttime landings were considered too dangerous. This posed a threat for Urquhart. His first force would have the element of surprise, and if the German resistance was minimal, would hold the bridge and secure any landing zones for the gliders. However, any subsequent landings would be after the Germans would have had time to get themselves organised. Intelligence reports also showed that the flak around the bridge itself was heavy. This was confirmed by RAF bomber crews who had encountered the flak on their regular flights to Germany. Urquhart decided to make his landings to the west, away from the bridge, even though he knew that this was a risk. If the German resistance was stronger than anticipated, there was a chance of the first landing not even getting to the Arnhem Bridge and taking out the flak. British intelligence reports indicated that the German presence in Arnhem was minimal. It was believed that the Germans only had 6 infantry divisions in the area with 25 artillery guns and only 20 tanks. German troops in an intelligence report of September 11th were said to be disorderly and dispirited. A similar report was made on September 17th. However, reports from the Dutch resistance indicated otherwise. On September 15th, the Dutch had informed the British that SS units had been seen in the Arnhem area. The 1st Airborne Division was given this information on September 20th, 3 days after the attack on the bridge had begun. Operation Market Garden began on the Sunday morning, September 17, 1944. Luftwaffe fighter bases had been attacked, as had German barracks based near the drop zones. 1,000 American and British fighter planes gave cover as the gliders and their tugs crossed the North Sea, and so the Battle of Arnhem began.